Hi, Adam Day here from eXp. Now, there's been loads of talk over the last few years about the future of estate agency, and I've been part of those. I've sat on the stage during panel sessions at various estate agency events and debated this exact subject, having started one of the very first online agents, and also claiming that that was the future of estate agency. Now, I'll admit, way back in 2005 and all the way up until 2018, I thought that the future of estate agency was being online, whatever that means. But online to me was centralising operations and allowing the vendor to do a certain amount of self-service, definitely not negotiating, and that was never part of my vision. But centralising operations so that a call centre could deal with viewings and offers while the valuer was left to list as many properties as possible was central to my belief back then and for many, many years afterwards. But I tell you when that belief died, really, and it was when I went to eMove and Tepelo. And the reason wasn't anything to do with those businesses. Both good businesses, both run really well in their own rights. But it was to do with the size of the call centre and the realisation of what a call centre actually is. You know, this sounds really daft, but you have to remember at Hatched, I only have ever had a call centre with a maximum of 28 people. I sat in amongst those staff within that call centre, and I could hear pretty much every call and every conversation. So if someone put an offer forward in a way that I didn't like, then I would hear it and I corrected them and made them a better estate agent. In fact, I made them into estate agents. You know, a lot of my old staff are now working on the high street as negotiators. And ultimately, I knew they were asking the right questions, spotting the opportunities, negotiating in the right way, and they understood sales progression. However, going to eMove and Tepelo, we had 40, 50, 60 people on the phones dealing with viewings, offers and sales progression. And within literally a few days, I realised that the staff at these businesses hadn't had the same exposure to full estate agency because there was just so many of them, and they'd been trained as call centre workers rather than estate agents. They weren't asking the right questions, spotting the right opportunities, they weren't negotiating properly, and they weren't doing sales progression as an experienced agent would. Now, look, again, don't get me wrong, they were great guys in the main, really good staff, pleasant on the phone, brilliant on the phone, in fact, in terms of how they talk to people and their conversational skills. They were motivated to be better, but they weren't estate agents. And instilling estate agency into 50, 60, 70 people sitting in a call centre, I think is impossible. And I only think that off the back of that experience there, I can guarantee that as an estate agent, if you went to some of those other online agents' call centres, I think you'd be pretty disappointed at how some of the calls are dealt with, if not most of the calls, and how your clients and your potential clients compared to how you would deal with them if you were receiving those calls and leads directly. For me, in my experience now, there's a huge lack of estate agency knowledge in those call centres, and therefore the customer suffers. And because the call centre is trying to deal with all aspects of estate agency can't do it as well as an estate agent, as well as you. And it was only after I'd been at one of these larger online agents that I realised that probably my vision of 2005 was not scalable from a customer experience point of view, and essentially not the future of estate agency. So I've waffled on there, as you'd expect. You're used to these videos now. So back to the subject of what is the future of estate agency. Now, I work for eXp, so obviously I think that the future of estate agency is somewhere around this eXp and self-employed, essentially. But why? So firstly, I would not have taken this role 5 years ago. Self-employed agents weren't a thing 5 years ago, but fair play to Purple Bricks. What they have definitely disrupted is the employment model of estate agents and estate agency in the UK. It's now acceptable to be a self-employed agent. And actually, the agents I've spoken to who have either worked for Purple Bricks or Yopa or one of the similar, or who have done so in the past, love the idea of working from home and being their own boss. But what the vast majority that I speak to then go on to say to me is that they don't get paid enough because the online agents are leading on being cheap, and so that therefore that hits the agent in the pocket. Or to get paid enough, they're actually working more hours than they would on the high street and taking calls at 11 o'clock at night. And on top of that, the promise of being their own boss doesn't quite materialise. That's what I'm being told, as there are company targets to meet. There are regional directors and area directors breathing down your neck and asking you what you're doing day to day. And again, in my view, although the online agents have got it right when it comes to having self-employed agents, they haven't got it right when it comes to having a call centre, the way the agents are paid and the way they're managed. Lastly, what many agents have lost sight of is the fact that people, in most cases, use the estate agent rather than the brand. And so in my opinion, businesses who empower the individual estate agent to go and make a name for themselves in the location that they're in, but the brand they work in under is, in my view, are going to be the ones that are successful. So in summary, who knows what the future of estate agency is? I don't know, nobody knows, but looking at eXp and other similar models around, it seems to me that self-employed estate agency, but high touch, high fee, not necessarily high fee, but certainly a fair fee, in locations with agents that are well known, well connected, and going to be going out and doing that estate agency job is probably the future. It's probably what the consumer wants. It's probably what the estate agent wants, and it's probably what the entire market needs. And that for me is the future of estate agency in the UK. It is starting to happen. Self-employed agents, the online agents, are realizing that if they're a good estate agent and they're motivated to go out and win business, they can earn a hell of a lot more with the likes of eXp, have a much better work-life balance. And at the other end of the scale, existing business owners with 1 or 2 or more offices are seeing the likes of eXp as a route to grow into other areas, into neighbouring towns or locations, without the associated costs that would otherwise be involved. So to find out more about how eXp could help you to power your business and remove most of those associated costs whilst earning, frankly, a substantial amount of the fee generated, increasing to 100% in some cases, get in touch, drop me a DM, send me an email, or give me a call, and I'll speak to you soon.